I'm never here to tell you what to think, but I hope I'm here to tell you what to think about.
What are the secrets that drive the businesses you love or nonprofits you admire? Join us as we uncover the surprising ideas at the intersection of causes and brands. I'm Dave Raley.
And I'm Carly Berna. Each episode, learn from leaders of nonprofits and companies that will give you insights that you can put into action. This is the Purpose and Profit Podcast. Season 6 of the Purpose and Profit Podcast is brought to you by Imago Consulting.
Welcome. Our guest today is Molly Thomas. She's a powerful voice for truth and justice. She's an award-winning broadcaster and global storyteller whose work spans from Iraq to Uganda, Haiti to France. And she has a passion for weaving together raw emotion, sound, story. And she brings global issues like human rights abuses, humanitarian crises, and refugee resettlement into sharp personal focus. She's also the host of Big If True, a weekly show that tracks and exposes misinformation, disinformation, conspiracies, and hoaxes, and explains why they're so easy to believe. Whether on the screen or on the page, Molly invites us to listen deeply and to imagine a better way forward. Molly, welcome to the show.
Hey, so good to be with you guys.
This is one that we've talked about, you and I and Carly have talked about for a while, and I'm super excited because you come from this kind of world of journalism and storytelling, and also shining a light on issues that often the world forgets. And we're going to talk about that today, but just start us out with a little bit of just how you even got into this whole journalism thing in the first place.
Well, the crazy people choose journalism, is what they say.
Is that true?
You have to be a little crazy, but in a good way. I think you have to be ready for deadlines that are all around the clock. You got to be ready to work all kinds of hours. The starts of journalism are not maybe as fun as what people see on the big screen, once you make it to a national network, but they're the roots. And that's where you learn how to talk to people. And at the core of everything, I love talking to people. I love listening to people's stories, and I love to write. And so you can take that writing, anywhere, whether that's into a national newsroom, whether that's on radio, whether that's on a podcast like we're talking about right now. Words are powerful. And so, yeah, that's why I got into this biz.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that we talked about was just one of your kind of core focuses has been on spotlighting overlooked stories and people. So I'm curious, Purpose and Profit, we're always about what can we learn from the world of brands? What can we learn from the world of causes? So how can brands and causes learn? What can they learn basically from choosing causes that matter and not just following trends? Yeah,
I think you have to really think about what you're passionate about. So what is your organization about? For me, I look at, when there's a story that keeps me up at night, that wakes me up, an issue area that just keeps bothering me, I know that in some way I have to tackle it. And so that's where, my passion is driven from. I would challenge, people, especially if they're in smaller organizations, starting out, to figure out what is it that, you are super passionate about. As you grow and as you expand, you can think of adding to the issue areas that you cover. But to really start from a space that you already believe other people should be invested in this, you already believe other people should know about this, you're going to bring that passion to the table. And I think, whether the issue is in your own neighborhood or it's across the world, that personal experience, that passion of your organization is going to either shine through, or you're just going to feel like another group that's trying to get people's money or trying to get people's investment. And then that doesn't feel authentic. So I think finding that passion point really matters.
I think that's super important. And in this day and age where it feels like we're often getting misinformed all the time and we have to super pay attention to where we're getting our information, what would you or how would you give advice to those listening who are either nonprofits or for-profits, like how to maintain trust when aligning with social issues, whether, again, it's a nonprofit or a cause, without getting kind of like sucked into whatever the misinformation is?
Yeah, it's difficult. And I think you're dealing with a public that it can be untrusting. And to be fair, in some ways, because there's so much coming at us, I understand that. But I think the more with your brand that you can be authentic. So, for example, if you were doing, an event. I've been to a lot of events for different global causes around the world. And some of them I go to and I just think, oh, that was nice. I watched some videos on a screen and, there were some people in front of me. Cool. Do I want to donate or not? And there are other places that I've gone to and I walk into that culture the moment I step through the door. You want to talk about, drought issues in East Africa. Are you serving East African food? Do you have East African people in the room? Do you have people that can speak to the culture just in terms of, the general interactions at the event? Like those kinds of small details to me separate just, an event that you put on from, what you might never get a chance to travel to Somalia, but we have people that have been there. We have people invested in our cause that represent that country. Let's put them before you. Let's tell that story authentically from the stage. And so I think there's different ways you can do that through food, through people. It's not just the presentation on the screen that people see for that 5 minutes on Somalia. It's a whole experience, but it's an authentic experience. And I think it's important to do stuff like that.
Well, and how important is that to make that, authenticity, I think is that word is used so often. I think it sometimes loses meaning. And, I work with charities where, it can be really tempting to do the sizzle reel of what's going on in the world or whatever. And it's like, no, let's actually shine a light on what's really happening.
Yeah, or focus in on one area, right? You might be an organization that covers 5 different areas, but maybe to create impact for your event, you might want to focus in on one area where, you really need help on, or maybe you want to just show the growth. There's also amazing things that come out of organizations and nonprofits that we often don't highlight because we're always telling the sad stories. I'm not a person that's all about only telling sad stories. Show the empowerment, show the people that are shining, that are proud of their communities. One of the things that in journalism, we're bad at oftentimes is just framing people as this poor community. Well, talk to people in that community. They don't feel poor. They don't feel like they're left behind. They love their community. They love their space. And so also empowering their voices in those conversations is really critical to how we frame any discussion around, especially global issues.
Yeah. Well, actually on global issues. So one of the things you've talked about is finding emotional entry points into tough topics. So I'm curious what you think about in terms of causes, how can they help their audiences relate to those global causes or those global issues more personally? Because I know it's so easy to have it be an abstraction or a distant thing, but how can they make those, relate to those more personally?
It's a challenge. It's a real challenge and everyone's competing for eyeballs. So, I want to recognize that for every nonprofit or organization that's out there. However, I think, one of the things in journalism that used to drive me nuts early on in my career, and I don't have to fight it as much anymore because as you get more senior, maybe you get more people to stop bothering you or they let you do your thing. There was a lot of discussions with producers as I went into the field in foreign contexts about, Molly, if that interview makes you cry, we should show that. And this was a big discussion. And, I recently did a podcast on the women of Afghanistan and their lack of education. And a podcast is very different than news storytelling or even doc storytelling, in my opinion. And so in that vein, I didn't want to ever do that because the story's not about me. It's about these people. And that is a fight that we're always fighting is producers or people from organizations thinking no one's going to relate to this unless they see you as a North American.
You relating to it, yeah.
Relating to it. But I actually don't believe that. I think that can be a technique. I think that there are so many other ways. So, for example, we brought up Somalia before. When I went to Somalia, there was a drought. They were worried in 2016, 2017, it was going to turn into a famine. And so when we went out there, we're seeing barren land, scary. You're not seeing animals, you're seeing animal carcasses out there. And people always say when animals die, children die. And so, scary things. And I'm looking at this land and I come from Saskatchewan, the prairies, just above Montana there, which is all farmland.
Yeah. And
if that farmland looked like home, people would be losing their minds. That would not be okay. And so then, you can that is just a lens of the world that you're seeing. Let me connect this arid farmland with my home in Saskatchewan. And all of a sudden, Canadians have a grasp of what we're talking about. You don't have to talk about something like it's so far away from you. We're not far away from each other. We're actually much closer. It's the insight into the writing, into the pictures that you have that bring that to life for people. But I don't think it has to be the journalist crying on camera. I think you can do it in much more clever ways.
Yeah. So are you saying, well, in the case of Saskatchewan, right, that, this similar sort of arid, farmland kind of thing, you're looking for things that are relatable or that can connect the dots that are familiar?
Because you have to remember that when you're telling the story, you get to see what the majority of people that watch your story will never see. You get to smell, you get to taste, you get to be in that culture. Imagine anywhere you've traveled in the world, it's like you're stepping off the plane, you step into something new. You have to take all of those people that never get that chance there. And so you have to think about engaging their senses at all stages, no matter what kind of event, video, impact statement you're trying to make. How do we bring people the most realistic, authentic experience of what I saw and relate it to them so that they get it? Because it bothers me. That's why I'm there. So we need them to get it.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your show, Big If True, and what the content is and how this can help consumers evaluate which brands or which causes or which nonprofits through this same lens are actually doing good and relating to what they care about?
Yeah, so I've stepped away from the foreign field for a little while, but I do love it. That's my heart, and I'll always go back and forth. But this last year, I've been digging into this project, which is all about misinformation, disinformation, hoaxes, and conspiracies. And I'm sure, Dave and Carly, you have been on your Twitter feed, you have been on Instagram, you have seen stuff on YouTube that you're like, how does that have millions of views? It's completely wrong, and yet everyone's talking about it. And this is the reality of the world we live in. And people are confused, people are frustrated, people are angry. And my hope with this show, and people can find us on YouTube at Big If True TVO, my hope with the show is that we really just help people navigate some of that noise and also understand the context and the environment that we're in, how the algorithms work, where the profit makers, like social media companies, are making big money off of rage baiting. Being able to recognize some of these things in our world so that we can also be just more alert. And so in terms of organizations, they're fighting the same battle, right? They're trying to fight for causes or to help people be informed about whatever, their passion project is. That can be tough when you're dealing in a world of disinformation, misinformation around that subject, because people might already come to the subject with a very skewed approach. They may not even want to hear about it. So yeah, I think it's a challenge in every sphere of society, and NGOs are no different.
How do you choose the topics on that show? Is it consumer submitted? Do you research them? I was just scrolling through the YouTube real quick. How do you decide?
It's a pitch fight every single week for us to figure out, honestly, there's so many pitches, there's so much content. You can't, we're never shy of content, which is great, but we're trying to get a variety. We're trying to get a variety for people because it really, the obvious ones, you can kind of pick out the politics and propaganda and those things, in news, you're always kind of dealing with that anyway. So we will always do those ones. But there's also the myths in the wellness industry or, the beliefs in UFOs. And I don't care if people believe in UFOs or not. It's the conspiracies that come out of it that lead to scams. People scam them on those beliefs. That's what matters. Yeah. It's the predatory journals where, someone sends you a study and you're like, oh man, I didn't know that, but the journal has been paid for. Or it was written by AI. These are the things that we as consumers need to be more in the know about. And every organization that's dealing with research has to be more in the know about because everything they put out there is a public document, right? A public video, a public picture. You have to be accurate, and it's getting harder and harder to figure out, what is true and what's not.
Yeah. Well, and I'm hopeful, it's so interesting. It reminds me of the early 90s when the verb Photoshop came out. Do you remember that? When it was that photo's Photoshopped. That was the thing, right?
Yeah, we are way past that. We are way past that. Heading towards all synthetic content, and we have to be really careful.
Yeah. And it's how does humanity and how do people actually develop the sort of awareness, right? That these are things, that the shark probably did not jump over the boat, Mom.
Right. Right. Or at
right?
least look. Like I'm never here to tell you what to think, but I hope I'm here to tell you what to think about.
Yeah.
Like that's the difference. And I want people to be thinking about more than just the share on that video, because how do we know that that's correct? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Let's just take a little bit more time. Let's be a little bit more careful, because it does impact wider society.
Yeah, that's great. One of the phrases I've heard you use is the idea of what's your holy discontent. And that really speaks to purpose. So I think about the folks that are listening to this, how can they find and act on their own version of that as they think about guiding partnerships, campaigns authentically?
Yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to that passion side of things. Like, figure out what is driving you and find like-minded people. I think that's the key. You know what I mean? And find them in different demographics. Find them. That is really important. I think, in the silos that we're in right now, a lot of people stick to their own lane. But the joy about causes and brands is that you can bring people together around one thing. Like, you think about Michael Jordan, okay? One of my faves. Think of who he brought together around his brand. Every age, every stage, every demographic around the world, right? That's one of the super brands of all time. But it's the same thing for any kind of a cause that we're talking about. Like, you want to bring together the generations. And I think in a world that's more polarized and more angry with each other, and we're actually more apart from each other than we are together often, that is an opportunity for your cause to bring people back together. So that is actually like a window of opportunity that organizations have right now that maybe just even in our everyday life we don't have.
I don't know if Scottie Pippen would feel like Michael Jordan brought everyone together.
Listen, he probably led the team, but in terms of branding, Carly, in terms of branding, like, look, I'm wearing a 23 right now. I'm wearing Michael Jordan paraphernalia right now. And like, this is the man I idolized in the 90s. Like, that brand is crazy. It's still popular. People that never even watched him play.
Yeah.
So like, again, that cause, that brand, how do you bring people together around something from so many different demographics, so many different age groups? Like, we need more of it.
Yeah, definitely. I love this idea of holy discontent. It's like, what's that thing that really like bothers you? And that's really what you're passionate about. Dave and I have both worked with causes that the world forgets all the time. And something that it seems like you have done in your work is take those types of stories and make them really relevant. So how can someone who works with a cause or some type of passion like that maybe is forgotten, but it's still really important, bring that to the forefront and make really relevant?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, look with your own eyes through your own experience and see how you can relate. Think about that farmland example, and then also look to empower. I think I really want to see more storytelling that's more diverse in the causes space, in the organizational space. We talked about before a video that I love that the UN put out with these little girls around the world, and they were talking about these issues that were plaguing young girls, okay? Some of like the worst stats that you'll ever see, but they didn't frame it like that. They had these little girls all around the world dancing to this like Beyonce video where they're just dancing to this freedom video, and they're some of the best dancers I've ever seen, and they're all dancing in their own context. It is such a powerful video, and you're just watching it, you would be drawn to it of like, oh wow, these little girls are so strong and confident in themselves. And then the stats come up in the middle that are so poignant to how disadvantaged those girls are in their communities and in their countries. It is such a good example to me of empowering the people that are there and still highlighting an issue that needs to be highlighted. So I would like to see, more creative ideas like that put together, and us to move away from, just the sad storytelling, which as journalists, we also need to learn, because I do that too. And we need to like catch ourselves and be like, how do we also show the agency of this person, of this young woman, of this family? Like, there's ways to do it, but you have to be consciously thinking of it.
Share helps Christian nonprofits shine with innovative marketing and digital fundraising. But that's not all. They're your tech-savvy partner, building tools to make your work easier and your impact bigger. Ready to grow your mission? Visit sharetalent.co today.
Too many tools, not enough impact? Meet Avid, the fundraising agency in the cloud. Unify data, scale engagement in minutes. Learn more at avidai.com.
I wonder if you could just geek out a little bit on the mechanics of storytelling. Like if you're like, take us on a little lesson. You can use an example of a story you've tried to shed light on. Like, you know, you're opening with like a surprising hook and like just go down the rabbit hole with us for a minute.
Sure. So I would say, like, first of all, you know, you can do all the prep you want before you get to a place or you land somewhere, but really when you're there, make sure that you are present. Like, focus less on your question line, focus more on where you are and what you're observing, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, because those are the things that bring something to life. So for example, you know, my latest podcast series is called Dear Taliban, and it's all about, you know, the loss of school for Afghan women and girls. And I don't want to, you know, spoil the story if people want to listen to it, but they can listen to the podcast. It's my journey to try to tell this story. But when I landed in South Asia, you know, I'm out there, everything is a sound. Every place I am, I have to bring to life for people, again, that have never been there. And so while I'm there, I'm like, I rolled tape on so much stuff. I mean, we probably used like 5% of that, but you just roll it so that you have it. And then when you come back, you're able to listen and be like, what is grabbing me even away from that country? What is reminding me of the place that I was? Like, there will be obvious things that will stick out, and make sure you mark things down. That's what I would say to anybody. Like, do not rely on your memory. You will not have enough time to go through all of your footage. Mark things down. So if you hear like a baby scream, if you're in a market, or you hear someone like, you know, get upset with each other because it's around the issue that you're covering, mark it. Like, mark those things down so that you know in your head, there's like, here's these sounds or here are these pictures that are so powerful. Somewhere in my storytelling, I have to weave it. And then, yes, of course, when you sit back and see, in TV, we're always like, what's our strongest visual? In audio, I'm like, what's my strongest audio? What's my most emotional audio? Is there something I can tease that I can come back to? So you're constantly playing. And honestly, storytelling is subjective. There's no perfect way of storytelling. Storytelling is unique to the person and who they are. And so, yeah, there's ways of enhancing everyone's story. But if anyone ever tells you your story is wrong, like, that's just, I think they're out to lunch. I think they can enhance and make that story better. But it's still your story if you're being authentic, if you're thinking about interesting way to hook people. People don't have long attention spans. So I will say, in TV, radio, audio, I'm always like, I have 10 seconds in TV visually. I probably have maybe 20 seconds in audio.
Yeah.
So I got to keep you. There's a lot to compete against. And so I really got to choose what I'm front-ending. The front really matters. Your first 15 to 30 seconds massively matters. So be conscious of that.
Yeah. Well, even as you're talking about this, and I love the fact that you're coming from that journalism background, you've obviously, you and I know each other personally from, you know, you've worked with charities, you've worked with organizations, but just to hear it from you of going into a place and just being present and actually seeing what's going on around you.
Totally.
I'm a photographer by passion, right? And one of my favorite things to do is to just actually notice the world around me. Like, how many of us walk around, you know, heads down looking at our phones or whatever,
Totally.
right? We're just literally not paying attention. And I think nonprofit leaders, certainly brand leaders that are, you know, thinking of messaging and marketing are probably just as guilty as anybody of very myopically focusing. Like, I want to tell this story. Like, we have come with this script and we need to tell this story, right? And so even just the permission that you're giving our listeners and candidly me, as I think about storytelling, to really just be present and to notice the story, and then to say, okay, well, now how do I communicate that story in a way that actually grabs people's attention and appropriately makes it relatable and authentic and all those sorts of things. But that's really powerful.
Being present is huge, you know, and when I go into the field, and it's probably similar for a lot of people in NGOs or such, because there's a lot of prep that goes in beforehand. Like I have a fixer, we call it in journalism. So someone that's local, someone that speaks the language, someone that goes ahead, I'm talking with them. This is what I'm looking for. They're trying to scout out people like to find. And so we usually have an idea of like the people I'm going to talk to, but like I can give you an example. I was in Bangladesh in the Cox's Bazar refugee camp, one of the largest in the world that has the Rohingya refugees. And we had all these things set up. And there was just this older lady that like when I was around with my camera, she just kept grabbing my hand. And I was busy doing interviews, but she kept, every time I walked by, she would grab my hand. And we didn't speak the same language. Like I can't say anything to her. I didn't have my translator with me, but she grabbed my hand like 4 or 5 times. And I just said to my cameraman, like, let's scrap for a couple hours. I want to just follow her to her home. We were at a medical clinic. Like, let's just follow her. Let's just see. And then, bring the translator in and stuff. And she walks us to her home, in the refugee camp, maybe like, I don't know, maybe 5 blocks. And she's got like all these little kids. There's 8 kids under the age of like 10. So her daughter was killed and her son-in-law were killed in that basic genocide in Myanmar. And she's now responsible, this like 70-something-year-old woman, for all these little kids. And she was one of the most impactful interviews I've ever done. And so I think, even if you're working from an organization where everyone has set the agenda of these are the people that you need to meet, yes, of course, but leave space in your schedule for life. Make sure you leave that space because it allows you to be present and not just like, we got this story and now we're moving on to this one. Like it allows you to say, no, we're going to break out. We're going to follow this person. It may turn into nothing, but it may also like reveal the best story that we had there. So I think those kinds of things, when you're thinking of scheduling and planning your trips are also important.
Well, and I think one of the things as I think about at least charity leaders is it's those stories, if you can really spend the time and invest. So often I think, and this may not fit with news journalism where you are often looking kind of for the next story, but charities tend to like candidly throw away stories like there's no tomorrow. It's like, yeah, we used it once. We used it in the banquet. We're not going to use it anymore. Like that's one, how long did it take you to, capture that story? Right. But you can use that for years. And so I do hope that especially charity leaders that are listening to this, think about like it's worth the effort to be present, to follow the woman for 5 blocks to see if there's a story there.
Right.
Because you might be able to use that for years.
And to repurpose, right? Like we're in a world where we can repurpose. Like if I would love to go back there in 5 years and see where those children are at. They're still there. Like there's a repurposing potential to see if there's anything that can help them. You know what I mean? Like it's not just like do the story and leave, which is always my problem in journalism because we're so bad at that. It's like we are there when the crisis happens and then we don't care about you anymore. And I think organizations and NGOs and the cause-driven places, that's where you can be different. You can be different than like the rest of the world and you can create that community around people that are like-minded that say this is important and we should care about this, we should invest, we should be involved in some way.
So good. So good. Okay, Molly, I have one more question for you. We always like to end in a lightning round, so we will end with that. We didn't tell you the questions. You'll be just fine. But I do want to just drill into this just a little bit further because, you're somebody that does bring people along emotional journeys when you're doing storytelling. And whether that's refugees or hoaxes or whatever, right? There is an emotional arc that you're taking people through. What advice do you have for brands or causes that want to inspire action, but they want to do that without feeling manipulative?
Yeah, and that's that empowering aspect. Like look to places you can empower the people you're talking about. Creative ways to storytell where they're not just the sad story. There are so many ways to do that. And look up that Freedom video with the Beyonce kids. I'm telling you, like it's still like it's one of my favorites. It's been around for maybe a decade or so, but it is so smart of what they were going after was achieved so well. Right. And it's not manipulating. Those girls are proud of who they are, where they're from. It's not manipulating,
Well, it reminds me of the book Made to Stick by Dan and Chip Heath. And one of the things they talk about is, messages that stick and stay around. And part of it was the idea of the concept of breaking people's guessing machines. Like these girls meaning we all assume, our brains are
Right.
always saying like, this is
Right.
what the next sentence is. This is where and this is where the stereotypical story is going. And so when
Right.
you see these girls in this African village dancing their heart out with joy on their face, right? That's like, okay,
Wait a
what's going on
second.
there? Like, did I expect to see that? Right. Or,
Right.
and the last thing I was going to say, one of the organizations that I've worked with over the years, International Relief and Development Agency, a really powerful group. I heard their creative director once say this to me, and this was probably 15, 18 years ago. It was a while ago, but I loved what he said. And he said, my job is not to over dramatize or under dramatize.
Yeah.
My job is to hold up a mirror.
100%.
And I think charities, especially as they're telling difficult stories, they can actually do one or the other. We only want to, we don't want to, be manipulative. So we're not going to actually show the dire reality
Right.
on the ground. It's like,
people need to see it.
that's not the truth, right?
Right.
And vice versa, right? We don't want to over dramatize, but I just love that idea of you're holding up a mirror. And to your earlier comment of, it is about being present and actually being able to see
Both
in the
sides.
mirror.
See both sides. And I would just add to that, music is such a powerful tool in storytelling, but it can also like frame an entire scene. Like think about a horror movie, the music that's playing. Think about a love story, the music that's playing. It is so telling. So you could be just showing video without saying anything, and you're putting music in there that is making people feel a certain way about people. It's very important to have like a very diverse group in your room as you're determining what music you choose to like highlight your story, to see if you're doing it right, if you're doing it equitable, if you are being fair to what you're trying to tell. It's really important. I've even got stuck a few times or got called out. It really matters.
You also, I don't know if like you've thought about this, but you also have great dramatic pauses when you're you personally are talking.
It's like you've been on television for years.
When you were telling
It's like
that
they
story
pay me to
before,
talk.
I was like so sucked in and I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening?
Well, thank you. Thank you. That TV training is paying off, I guess.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, this was a super fun conversation. And like Dave said, we love to end with a lightning round. So I have 6 random questions. Just think of the thing that comes to your mind first. All topics allowed, including sports. Okay.
Ready.
Number 1 is, if you could instantly become an expert in any skill, what would it be?
Singing.
Are you a good singer at all, or just like tone deaf and you're like, I can
sing a little bit, but like I wish I could be like, a superstar. That'd be so fun.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Number 2, what's your guilty pleasure TV show or movie?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So many people are gonna be disappointed. I love The Bachelor. I love things about love. Like I'm a big romantic. So like I love The Bachelor, like is terrible. I also love this show on Netflix that honestly, if people watch, or not on Netflix, on YouTube, they just did a spinoff on Netflix. They're gonna watch and they're gonna think, what's wrong with you? It's called Pop the Balloon to Find Love. Have you guys heard of this?
No.
It is the most low budget dating game. But I find it so entertaining. Like I watch hours of it and they have millions of subscribers. So I'm not alone, but it's so funny to me. I love it.
I love how, I'm guessing in your professional life, like you have a high quality of excellence, but in your own guilty pleasure, you're like, I'll take the lowest budget show possible.
Listen, when you're doing like really heavy stories, I think you need like really light, happy things. And those are the things that help me.
I got you. Okay. If you could donate $1 million to any cause, what would it be?
Refugees. I think migration is the biggest challenge of our generation. And I think that people are going to move for so many different reasons, persecution or climate issues. There's just so much going on with the amount of people on the move. Refugees specifically, held my heart because of the work that I've done. But yes, I think that we need to support more people that are in very tough situations.
Yeah, I think that's a great cause. All right. What's the most random thing on your bucket list?
I don't even know if I have a bucket list. crazy? You guys have bucket lists?
Yeah, I mean,
Do you
I'd
have
like
things
to.
that you really are like trying to knock off?
I'd like to go to the Olympics, like as a
Okay,
watcher.
that's cool. I've been to 2. I've been to 2.
well.
Very cool. Very awesome.
Humble brag.
Knowing you, well,
No. But I mean, like as a journalist, you go to things too. But I love sports. But mine would be, that's a good reminder. Mine would be the World Cup.
I was going to say like Super Bowl, like I'd go to
World
Wimbledon. Like, yeah. Okay. Awesome.
World Cup and March Madness. But March Madness, it's like, I just have to book a ticket and go and watch it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not really like one of those things, but World Cup, especially in a country like a soccer, football loving country, would be pretty darn cool.
Yeah. What's a surprising fact about you that most people wouldn't guess?
I teach Zumba for fun. So that's like my fun job. I like to say I have a very serious job where I'm like, going to these countries and trying to find these really intense stories. But I love to dance. I love to like hang out with people and like have a good time. So yeah, I think a lot of people, if they meet me like away from journalism, would never think of the type of journalism that I'm really actually passionate about, because it doesn't really fit. Like when I first started my career, people were like, well, you should just be a morning show host. And like, listen, I do mornings really well. Like I enjoy mornings, but I was really upset that was the only thing they saw in me.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I went off and did stuff, but there's a lot of people that didn't think that was in me. And I just was like, oh, I know this is what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
But I also love mornings. So no diss to the morning crews.
Okay. All right. Last question. If you could switch lives with anyone for a day, who would it be? A living person.
I mean, I think Oprah's life would be pretty cool. Like, because the influence that she has, like, I wonder what it's like. Like, is she able to like walk into like a store?
No way.
Is she right? So like, what happens? Like, what is that life like? Like, you live like away from people. Like, is that lonely or is that awesome because everyone wants to be around you? Like, you're such a public person. You have such an influence, but yeah, I wonder what that life is like on the day to day. Because it also, it's like you're so big that you're almost like too big.
Yeah.
But if you ask me who I would want to hang out with, Celine Dion. Come on, Canadian royalty. Ugh. And she's gone through a hell of a time with her health. And I just wish I had gone to a Celine Dion concert.
That's how I always felt about Michael Jackson, by the way. I was like, I just wanted to go to a Michael Jackson concert.
Totally.
Oh man, what a way to end. I feel like the ending of this episode is exactly the life you've described, which is we've got the fun side, the like, let's have a great time, everybody, let's laugh, but also let's pay attention to what's happening in the world. So I feel like this is a beautiful bow on the end of this episode.
Amazing. Thank you guys for having me. It's been fun.
Oh, thank you, Molly. And for folks that are looking for you or your show, like where can they find you?
At Big If True, TVO on YouTube. You can find us on our website as well. Just type that into Google and you'll find the full episodes of the show. And on TikTok, Instagram at Molly Thomas TV.
Love it. Well, thank you, Molly. And for our listeners, I hope you learned something new today. I hope you had your perspective widened, that you might be a little bit more present the next time you're looking to tell stories. Until next time. Amen.
We want to thank all of our sponsors for supporting Season 6 of the Purpose and Profit podcast, including Virtuous, Faith Search Partners, Dickerson Baker, Share, Synergy, Avid, and Imago Consulting. For more episodes of the Purpose and Profit podcast, visit purposeandprofitpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love it if you would rate the show and write us a review. Follow the show on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. You can also sign up for our email newsletter to get the latest updates. Thanks for listening.